People in Vethera Crossing always assumed I was finished. I did not correct them. A man of 67 with a bad hip and a plot of red rock that had broken 2 irrigation rigs and 3 business partners in 30 years. I suppose the assumption was not unreasonable. I grew a little pulse grain. I kept a solar still running. I fixed machinery for the traders who passed through on the dust corridor route because my hands still knew how even when the rest of me was slowing down. I ate dinner alone every evening and I went to bed before the second moon cleared the canyon rim. The town of Vethera Crossing, 11 structures, fuel depot, and a well. Let me be, that suited me. The skiff came down on a Tuesday. I heard it before I saw it, a sound like a stone being dragged hard across a washboard. 3 seconds of it, and then the canyon ate the noise. I went out to look because that is what you do when something falls out of the sky near your property. Found the wreck at the base of the north face, wedged between 2 boulder shoulders where the gully narrows. The hull was cracked open along one seam. The pilot was dead. Cargo, a sealed transport pod, had rolled clear and cracked on impact. She was inside it, sitting up, looking at me the way a small creature looks at something much larger when it does not yet know if that something is dangerous. Ashen gray skin, silver hair, very fine, matted against the side of her face from whatever the transit had done to her. Eyes the color of old amber, far too large for a face that's small, the way alien children's eyes always are, like they are meant to hold more of the world than a human child's can. She was wrapped in something woven in dark, torn at one shoulder. She did not make a sound. She just watched me. I crouched down, hurt my hip considerably, and held still. I have no experience with children. My wife and I never had any, and she has been gone for 11 years. I have even less experience with alien children. But I know a great deal about living things that have been frightened, and do not know where the next safe thing is coming from, because red rock farming teaches you that, or it breaks you. You go slow. You keep your hands visible. You do not crowd. After a while, she put one hand out and touched the back of my wrist. That was that. I carried her up to the house, which also hurt my hip, and I did not set her down until we were inside. I gave her water, which she accepted. I gave her a strip of dried grain protein. She studied for a long time, and then ate in small, careful bites. I did not know her language and she did not know mine, so we communicated in the oldest way available. Point, nod, shake of the head, and patience. I made her a bed from my spare blankets in the back room, and she slept for almost 14 hours. I did not report the wreck to anyone that first night. The official story later was that I had simply not gotten around to it. The real story was that I sat at my kitchen table for an hour, thinking about what a sealed transport pod, with a living child inside it, meant. It meant somebody had put her there deliberately. Somebody had planned for her to survive the transit. Which meant somebody, somewhere, very badly wanted her to arrive somewhere safe, and somebody else, possibly, had made sure she did not. I reported the wreck in the morning. I did not mention the pod. Her name, as best I could reproduce the sounds she made, was something close to Syl. I called her that. She seemed to find it acceptable. Over the following weeks, she learned a dozen of my words, and I learned 4 of hers. And we managed on that. She followed me out to the field in the mornings and watched me work. She had opinions about the irrigation calibrations that she expressed through a system of small sounds and pointed fingers, and twice she was right. I started asking her before I adjusted anything. The outpost community watched all of this with the particular discomfort of people who do not know what category to put something in. They were not unkind. Merritt from the fuel depot brought food twice. Old Sen from the well house stopped by to see if I needed anything, but there was a wariness underneath it. Stranger child with no papers, and a wrecked ship, and nobody coming to claim her. That was an administrative problem. People in small outposts are acutely sensitive to administrative problems. Word moves fast on the corridor. I knew that. I had always known that. 6 weeks after the crash, a man I did not recognize came through on a resupply run and asked at the depot anyone had found anything unusual near the north face recently. He was asking casually, the way people ask when they already know the answer and want to see what version of it they get. Merritt told him about the skiff. Did not mention Syl, because Merritt is a good woman who reads a room well. I heard about the conversation that evening. I did not sleep much that night. 3 weeks after that, they came. 3 of them, on a licensed carrier, mid-morning. They had papers. Actual printed papers with a jurisdictional seal I recognized from the Outer District trade codes, which meant they had gone to some trouble. The paper said that the child was a ward of a house called Drevon, that she had been in unauthorized transit at the time of the crash, and that her legal custodians were entitled to remand her to their care. It had stamps on it. 3 of them had stamps on it. They presented these papers to me at my door. I read them carefully. I am a slow reader, and I took my time, and they let me, because the papers were in order, and they believed the papers were the end of the conversation. I looked up and asked if they would wait one moment. I took the papers inside. I gave them to Syl. She was standing in the back room doorway watching. And I said, clearly, the 4 words in her language I had learned that I was most confident in. She understood. She went to Marit, who was standing 30 feet away outside the depot with her arms crossed, and Marit took her inside without a word. Then I walked back out. 3 men were still holding themselves the way men hold themselves when they believe the situation is resolved, and they are. They are just waiting for the paperwork to follow. They were all larger than me. They were considerably younger. One of them had the look of someone who has done this kind of collection work many times and found it boring. I am 67 years old. I have been working Red Rock Canyonland since I was 24. I have pulled irrigation cable in 50-degree heat, kept myself free from machinery that was trying to kill me in the dark, and carried 110 kilos of equipment up a canyon grade with a torn shoulder because there was nobody else to do it. My hands look like the landscape they work in. My patience runs very deep and exhausts very suddenly. I told them. The child was not going with them. The man with the papers explained patiently. The documentation was valid under the district trade codes. I told him I understood that, and that she was not going with them. He explained that refusal to comply would constitute interference with a legal collection order. I told him I understood that too. He looked at me for a moment. He looked at the other 2. They made a small decision, together, silently, the way men do when they have decided the situation is simple. It was not simple. Vethera Crossing is an 11-structure outpost on the edge of the dust corridor. There is no constabulary. There is no emergency response. What there is 11 structures full of people who have been living hard lives in a difficult place for a long time, and who had watched an old farmer and a small alien child calibrate irrigation equipment together for 6 weeks. Maret came out of the depot with her coupling wrench. Sen came out of the well house. The Parchett brothers came down from the upper level. Nobody said anything. They just came. The 3 men left without the papers. They left, in fact, somewhat hurriedly. I filed a formal response to the collection order the following morning, citing emergency protective custody under the Settlement Habitant Code, which is an obscure provision but a real one. The legal process took 11 months. It was not pleasant, but the law, it turns out, has provisions for people who do unpleasant things to children, even provisions that small outpost settlers can use, if they are patient and willing to work through the paperwork with the same stubbornness they bring to impossible land. Syl is 17 now. She still has opinions about irrigation calibration. She is usually right. I let her tell me what to adjust.